we'll start out by just going over this book, which I reread. I read this, I only found this book about a month ago. So I read it once the first time a month or so ago before I said, let's read this for today's book. But then I went back and I read it again last night. Not every part of it, but it's a good enough book. Remember with the book situation, people still struggle with the issue of if I read a book too fast or if I put it down when it's half done, I feel like I'm missing out on stuff. That is opportunity cost misunderstanding. So whenever you put a book down, as long as you start reading another one, you don't have to feel weird. Because if you stayed reading every ounce of knowledge in one book, every millisecond you're doing that is a millisecond you couldn't be reading something else. So the only time you should feel bad about leaving a good book half open or half finished is if the next book you read is a worse quality book. If it's a better quality book, then every second you kept reading the lower quality book is a second you wouldn't read the higher quality book. And if you saw, it's interesting, you know, if you saw my Instagram or Facebook, got to talk with Elon Musk this weekend. And one thing Elon Musk understands a lot more than most people is opportunity cost. So he's very big on retraining his mind to go, oh, that looks cool. We got that new slider. You can see I'm just in flip-flops. It's the only downside. I got to watch my footwear when we do this way. So, but that's fine. I actually don't mind. This is, the whole, you know, on a little side note, that whole saying of whoever you hang out, you become like, that's definitely true. And you can test it to a much deeper level. I'll tell you where it doesn't work, okay? I've seen people just start going to a million networking things where you don't actually interact with higher level people. That, in my experience, is better than nothing, but it's not amazing. So what's amazing is some level of long one-on-one interaction with somebody higher level. So Saturday, my friend Alex came down from San Francisco. I literally think he's one of the best business people and one of the smartest people on planet Earth right now. He's certainly known for that in San Francisco. So it's not just my opinion. Silicon Valley sees him as one of the sharpest guys around. And we were talking about multi-objective planning, which is where you have a lot of different goals you try to accomplish. And whenever I bring up multiple objectives, he always goes, Ty, I have a PhD from Berkeley in multi-objective planning. And after getting my PhD, I came to the conclusion that it's all bullshit, that you can't effectively optimize multiple things at the same time. So he's huge on, you just pick one objective. Now you do have multiple steps to get there. It's interesting, he calls those steps constraints. So he says, you know, if you wanna be a billionaire, okay? He says, don't try to be a billionaire and a bodybuilder and have a good family. He's pretty extreme in this. He says, being a bodybuilder is a constraint, which means you have to do it to stay healthy, okay? He says, having a family is a constraint. You have to do it to be, you know, humans need social intimacy to be, our brains wired that way. But he doesn't see it as an objective. So not everybody would agree with that. But one thing I've learned is when you disagree immediately with really smart people, you have to check yourself because maybe they're right. Because if they've been right about 2 trillion other things, they're oftentimes right about this, the one that seems opposite. So it's kind of semantics to me, but the main point is, and the reason that I'm bringing this up, is that when you're looking at reading a book or networking and hanging out with people at a higher level than you, you need to have you can't have multiple objectives and do it very well. So sometimes an example of this is like, you're gonna read this book and you're gonna outline like 8 things you learn in this book. It's better to just be like, what's one pertinent thing in this book that I'm gonna search for? That's what I called, you know, the golden nugget. You're looking for the pot at the end of the rainbow. And then, because some people go, but then I miss out on the other points. No, if it's a good enough book, like this is a good enough to make it into my top 150, you can develop your own 150. Then you just put it on your bookshelf and you read it again in 6 months or a year, each time getting good nuggets from it. The same thing happens with networking. People, let's say, like I'm going to a seminar this week, a conference, a mastermind, and I only have one reason I'm going. I told Maya, once I find that out, I'm gonna leave. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't have my radar up, so that there might be, because there's always things you don't know. What is it? Was it Dick Cheney or that said, there are known knowns, or Donald Rumsfeld? There are known knowns. That is things that you know. And then there are known unknowns. Things that you don't know. Like I know that I don't know how to put a rocket in space like Elon Musk. And then he says there are also unknown unknowns. Things that you don't know that you don't know. That's the most dangerous ones. So even though I'm going to this mastermind, I keep in mind there's unknown unknowns. There might be somebody there in possession of some piece of business knowledge that I don't even know I should know. So I will keep my mind open when I'm there. But my conscious mind is just, there's one thing that there's two people going with me, I already wrote out. I'm like, this is it. We get that, that's good enough. Don't be greedy. People are greedy when it comes to networking and reading books. And there's an old and wise saying from the stock market, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Meaning, if you want too much, you get nothing. You get killed. That's what I see people doing with books. They're like, I'm gonna memorize the whole book. I'm like, you're being a hog. A pig just eats enough to be satisfied, and then it comes back and eats again. So when you're networking, Keith Ferrazzi was actually here at the Penthouse a week ago. He's the guy who wrote the book, Never Eat Alone, which is about networking and social interaction from a business standpoint, how to get mentors, how to cut deals and all that. It's the same thing. So Saturday night, when I'm with Alex, my friend, I always try to get one thing. And he's a busy guy, so I usually see him for one night. He comes down. We go to the same steakhouse every single time. By the way, you know why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same shirt every time? Because he says he read an article that says multi-objective planning is difficult. So he's like, I can either be the richest person in the world or I can have good shirts. And I'm just like, I'll just wear the same shirt every day. I mean, he wears a clean. He probably buys. I now do that. This shirt right here, if you see me wearing a lot, I literally have maybe 15 green ones, 7 here, 7 at my house. And he doesn't want to take any time to think about shirts, so I'm copying him and testing. In terms of Alex comes into town, I don't pick a new restaurant every time. Why? Because that takes work. And my goal for the night is to not try a new restaurant. You don't want to bring in a high-level person and then have 2 goals. Okay, try out a new Italian place and learn a lot from this experience with this smart guy. No, just pick the same restaurant. We almost have the same table. That way we don't have to do any thinking. He doesn't have to even use one bit of glucose in his brain going, what's the address? You know how you always do that, going back and forth? It's just like, steakhouse, 8 p.m. That's the only thing I gotta tell him is time, and he'll be there. Then once we're there, he started talking about multi-objective planning, which we've talked about that for years, but he told me a new interesting, he was talking about this constraint thing, which is actually a very mind-blowing and trippy way of thinking about life, that you just have one goal and everything else is just a cost. So he's like, eating. Eating is not a goal to be alive because everybody does it, including animals. You wouldn't want to go to your grave and go, you know what, I ate. Like people are like, yeah, so did worms. You wouldn't want to go through life and be like, I breathed air on a consistent basis. So he says, pick a lofty goal and then everything else is just a cost. You must breathe. It's like sleep. Sleep is a cost, right? You have to do it, and it takes you away from what you really want to do. Because everybody here knows, if you're living the life that you like, okay, you enjoy the moments of your life, most of them. At least I always say you should like 80% of your life. 20% of your life should always stay stressful. That way you'll build an immune response and get stronger. So this 20%, this sleep, if you could take a pill right now, everybody here could take Limitless, the movie, if you could take a pill called Sleepless, no side effects. You feel exactly the same. Your body recuperates. but you gain an extra 6 to 8 hours a day, that's literally, you just gained exactly how much? 33% of your life back. Okay? So you could instantly, people want to live longer. I'm like, you could instantly live, if let's say the average person lives 80 years, you'd get an extra 20 years with no side effects if that pill existed. But it doesn't, and so it's a cost. And so lots of things in your life are a cost. Even this book today, one of the takeaways from this book is that networking is a cost, because to effectively network, you can't 100% be yourself, okay? And some people are going to see that as like, oh, no, always be yourself in every situation. Well, that's like saying, I'm a jolly person. I like jokes. I go to a funeral. I'm like, hey, I'm a funny person. I'm at your grandma's funeral and I'm just whipping out jokes. Hey, everybody, watch this. Did you hear the one about? No, you wouldn't do that, meaning you wouldn't act your quote unquote authentic self at a funeral. What you would do is bring out parts of your personality that are normally hidden, like your ability to empathize with people, your ability to, weep if it's with your friend, and that's not disingenuous, but it is something you learn. If you don't believe me, little kids, they go to funerals who haven't learned, they'll play. If you take a little kid to a funeral who has not learned, and you give them a big wheel, they'll big wheel around the whole thing while people are there crying, and little kids don't know. So what that means is all behavior, social, is primarily learned. So this book, today's book by this Halvorson, I don't know if she's Swedish, it's definitely a Swedish name, No One Understands You and What to Do About It. What it's basically saying is you have to become a master of altering your behavior. So going back to Alex and this dinner, single objective planning, your objective socially should be the things in this book, which are to master the different kind of faces that you're going to bring out. Now, you guys know that I have this PACE system. So each of you has these 4 dominant personality types. The P is for practical, A for action, S for social, E is for emotional. This book is similar to that. She has some different frames. So she says, that if I'm talking to Mark Dama, okay, or if I'm talking to Maya or Josh, there's a few different fronts that I'm going to meet them on. So like 2 people meet, boom. You walk into an elevator, boom. There's an interesting story in this book about different types of people who pull up at a 4-way stop sign. So in Beverly Hills, there's these huge 4-way stops. The biggest one I've ever seen in the world is in Beverly Hills. It's like an 8-way one in the middle, right off Sunset Boulevard by the Beverly Hills Hotel. And what this research says is if Mark is driving a Lamborghini, okay, and Maya has a Rolls Royce, and I have a 1981 Honda Accord, that in the studies, the junkie car is, guess who you think cheats going through you know how like you're supposed to wait your turn? Guess who's more likely to cheat? Yeah, the exact statistics, I wrote it here. And there's an even more crazy thing, which is very Hollywood for them to mention. When you pull up, you know how there's crosswalks? Like in Hollywood, there's these crosswalks, and it's not like New York. In LA, you have to instantly stop, okay? So here, all right, here it is. Okay, so at an intersection, high status cars, Mercedes, BMWs, and Porsches cut off other drivers 30% of the time. They go too quickly, okay? Low status drivers, they didn't list what cars those were. I'm assuming junk car. You have a Yugo, 1999 Yugo 2-cylinder. Low status cars only cheat 7% of the time. Okay, so that's 4 times more likely to cheat if you're in a car. This is crazy. Stopping at a crosswalk when people are coming and not trying to like jet through. High status cars or people driving them only yield 50% of the time. Half the time they're like, I'm just going through. Actually, last night I was across the street at Coffee Bean getting green tea. I'm listening to Mark Dama become a tea connoisseur, okay? And when I was coming back, there was a Aventador. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's the most expensive Lamborghini. It's about $450,000. And it literally, I went to this truck, it just buzzed by. And then there was a guy in like an AMG Mercedes, buzzed by. And I don't remember the car that stopped, but it was a lower status car. So I didn't even know that till this morning when I read this again. So interestingly, very low status cars, your beat up, rusty, rag for a gas cap type cars stop for pedestrians 100% of the time. So what does that mean? That means every person you approach, depending on their personality and the frame that they're in, she doesn't call them frames, she calls them lenses. So what's his name that wrote the investing book? That was at the conference in January. I keep wanting to say Edon Ravine. Yeah, Oren Clough, he calls them frames. I call them personality types. This book calls them lenses, like glasses. So what this Halverson lady says is every social interaction you have, and by the way, this is with your wife or husband, this is with your boyfriend or girlfriend, this is with your boss, this is with your customers, this is with random strangers and your family. It doesn't change, okay? So what are the lenses of sunglasses you have to learn to deal with? We'll call them glasses. Okay, the first one you have here, and I'm not going to talk on all of them. You have the trust one, okay? You have the power one, and you have the ego one. So let's say you go out and you're going to meet Elon Musk, okay? You got to understand how Elon Musk sees you. Remember, that's called the theory of the mind. Most of us are very naturally selfish, self-centered. So we think when we meet Elon Musk that he's there to meet us. He's not. He's the 100th richest man in the world. He's in his own space, trust me. He's got $13.7 billion in that's his net worth at 44. He's one of the richest people by age, too. And also, he's self-made. You know, he's born in South Africa and he's living the American dream. I'm actually working on a show called American Dream, The American Dream. So, trust. When you meet people, the first thing you must, the first lens you must pass, because a lot of times people will put all three of these on. When you meet someone in the trust mode, there's two things, this book, just some practical things to do, real practical. You meet a customer, you're doing a deal. They walk in, okay? Look them in the eyes. This is a huge indicator that you have warmth. So what they're looking for here, their brain is going to look at you at two angles with the trust mode. They're going to look for, let's call it, you know, we'll just use what this book says. This is also similar to that book we talked about, Compelling People. The two Harvard guys found similar results. So warmth. Simple way is pay attention to the conversation, okay? So you don't want to text. You don't want to make them perceive you as you're like, oh, okay. You know, remember their name. That's all those classic things of personality typing, of networking. Those are all the first step in the trust creation. Now, what I thought was interesting that this book mentions is that, so you meet people, you show them you have warmth, you care about them. You could call that empathy. It's not enough, and I'll show you why. So let's say I was at a party I had at my house, and there's this girl that I know that was drinking there. This isn't a bad thing about her. She just was a little drunk. She had my cell phone for some reason. She like grabbed it to joke around, and I grabbed it back, and she bit me, just joking around. I was like, all these people around, and I was like grabbing it, and she goes like that, and it right here on this arm, and it was like enough of a bite that I was like, oh, what the heck? And then I went and washed it out because I know that, you know, bite and gets affected. The next day I woke up and my hand felt like these lines of pain were going down it. And I was like, that feels weird. And then like 3 days later, I'm like, my arm's gonna fall off. It was like gangrene or something. So I went down, right down the street. This is just about 2 years ago. It's actually when I started my Instagram. If you go back on my Instagram, the first pictures, one of them's at the hospital with the tag. So I'm there at the hospital. So a nurse comes in, and I remember the nurse was like an extra nice nurse. So she had a lot of warmth at Cedars-Sinai. I felt like she cared. But you know what? I didn't really trust her because she didn't have the second thing, okay? She didn't have competence. Like, I knew she couldn't fix my arm. When I'm like, hey, can you fix my arm? She's like, no, a doctor has to do it. So just think about yourself in every interaction you go into. Let's say you meet Elon Musk, okay? First step, and Elon is this way. He is kind of, when you're a billionaire, he's a slight, my read on Elon Musk is he's an E in the PASE system. So he's an EP. So he's emotional. He's a little distrusting when he meets you. And so what you have to do is overcome that by showing that you're there as a friend. What's the opposite of that? Can also be you meet somebody and you're just there like, hey man, I got a business plan. Will you read it? Will you invest in it? Like, that's no warmth. Warmth is like a joke. Warmth is you're chill when you first meet someone. So let's say you have an encounter to meet, you have a chance to meet Elon. You got to show that you're there as a friend, not a foe. And we'll get into that in this next one. But you got to show you have some competence in what you're doing. So you don't want to come off as a buffoon. You want to come off as basically sharp, which, by the way, is one of the big reasons that I tell people to read a lot. Okay? It instantly ups your competence. I will tell you this, not everybody who meets me and talks to me for a while likes me, okay? But nobody thinks I'm dumb because I can talk about things that smarter people than me wrote all the time, nonstop. I went last Tuesday, what day was that Dan thing? Tuesday or whatever. I went and it was me, the guy who started Marvel. So he's the guy he was the head of Marvel, Universal, did Avengers, did Iron Man, did Ant-Man, that's coming out. He told me they started writing Ant-Man 10 years ago. He did the biggest blockbuster. I mean, Iron Man and Avengers, these are all, each of them make $1 billion. So I was there with him. It was just 4 of us. Him, and then a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, which a lot of you will know. He's like Seth Godin. He wrote all these books. He started Wine TV. He's one of the original investors in lots of stuff like Facebook, Twitter. You probably know who he is if you Google him. So it was us 3. So those are powerful people, right? So warmth was shown. Gary Vaynerchuk's actually very good at this. He's a very, like when you meet him, he like pays attention to you, looks at you, makes you feel special. Another guy, the best in the world. There's one guy who's the king of this, and his name is William Clinton, otherwise known as Bill Clinton. So I got to meet Bill Clinton. He was at my friend's house. I got to talk to him a little bit in 2000. I don't know what year it was. 2011 maybe. He was there for fundraising for his wife at my friend's house in Beverly Hills. Dude, that is a man that has taken what's in this book to whole new universes. He is charismatic to the nth degree. And so charisma also is this. Charisma is a compilation, and his wife doesn't have it very well, okay? And that's what always, she doesn't display warmth. There's not many people that go, you know what, if I fall down and hurt myself, number one person I want coming to my side is Hillary Clinton, okay? She does give off a lot of competence. People say that Hillary Clinton is by far one of the most intelligent people and adept and talented in Washington. You might not agree with her politics, but she's no dummy. No one's ever accused her of that. She does get accused of being, what is it? Didn't she have this big controversy already in the years running up to the election? She's bitchy or something like that. So Bill Clinton, though, My friend met Bill Clinton at the White House. I have a friend, it was actually a lawyer, one of my lawyers when I lived in North Carolina. He told me he went to the White House, he walks in, there was 100 top lawyers in America were being honored by coming to a cocktail party at the White House. Bill Clinton, he said, walked in. The lawyer's name was Matt. So Matt told me Bill Clinton just went down the row shaking everybody's hands. Oh, what's your name? Matt. And he said he went down, and he said there was either 80 or 100 of us. He said an hour later, then it was just a cocktail party, everybody's sitting around. He said the president walked, this is when Bill Clinton was the president. The president walked by Matt and just was like, Matt, how you doing? And he goes, that dude had memorized my name. 100 of us. He'd never see us again. We're just there for one night. And you know what that does? I bet you Matt, whether he was Republican or Democrat, is going to vote for Bill Clinton the next time because he's like, it's my buddy. I got to vote for him, right? He knows my name. So that, by the way, displays two things at the same time, warmth and competence, because you care and you have the brain power to remember. So when I was with Gary Vaynerchuk, this guy Dave Mizell that started Marvel, they were talking, they didn't, and then when it came my turn to talk, now you don't want to do this in a show-off way, they were asking me some questions about books, they knew who I was, and then I added a little nugget of something I had read that morning that added to the conversation, added to their life. I could see Gary Vaynerchuk being like, that's interesting. I want to use that in my business strategy. And I was just sharing from a book. So books are such powerful. I cannot tell you, even if a book does not give you any knowledge, it gives you competence in terms of the sunglasses that people are wearing, or the glasses they're wearing when they see you. Again, not just to harp on this, I was reading once more something, I've been talking about this for years. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, separate interviews were asked the one superpower they want. So you know, they could answer a lot of things. To have the best CEOs, to have the most capital in their bank account to buy new businesses, anything they wanted in the universe. And they both agreed. They just wanted to be the fastest readers in the world. That's when you really ponder what that means the two highest IQ people almost in the world. They are, trust me, they're in the top 1 millionth, maybe 100 millionth, maybe 1 billionth. Some people would argue they might be in the top 10. Bill Gates is no dummy. Again, Bill Gates displays a lot of competence, not always a lot of warmth. Neither did Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs really helped skyrocket Apple when he learned how to be a better public speaker, which are the principles found, in this book. He didn't have this book, but similar principles. He talks about that. There's an interview. He said, and then when Apple first started, I was a horrible public speaker, and I realized how important it was to be able to be charismatic. And he was never amazingly charismatic. He was no Bill Clinton, but he's pretty good. If you watch that 1980, I think it was 1984, when he comes going down, when Apple really rolled out and he had that big screen behind him of all that cool stuff. So reading increases competence. So I said here, warmth, basically follow along the conversation with your eyes, okay? And then this one is accomplished primarily by just reading. Obviously, other things help, like if you have life experience, if you can show you made $1 million in another business, people are going to pay more attention to you. Okay, so that's this first lens. If you want to be more influential with other human beings, which you must master that skill. So this is, again, with your customers. When your customers walk in your office, when they go to your website, in the videos that you post, in Instagram, Twitter, Facebook posts that you make sure that they convey warmth and competence, ideally at the same time, okay? Next, you are going to meet, so once people realize that they can trust you, okay, so they've got to step one. They meet Mark Dama, they're like, he's a nice, their subconscious goes, this guy's paying attention to me, he looks like he would care. He looks like if I tripped, he would grab me. It's a good test, by the way. You're talking to somebody. If it looks like, if you perceive or you are perceived as somebody who would not be able to grab them if they tripped, you're probably not paying close enough attention. So if someone's talking to you and you're like texting or looking, or they know subconsciously if they tripped, you wouldn't grab them. So you should be paying enough attention, enough eye contact, close enough to them that if they took the next step and stumbled, did any of you guys see Shaquille O'Neal fall on Inside the NBA this year? If you watch Inside the NBA, it's the funniest sports show. It's the best sports show ever done. It's Charles Barkley, Shaq's on it, and Shaq somehow got the cord underneath his desk wrapped around. It's the funniest scene because he has this little side thing where he always races Kenny Smith to the board to write the sports stuff on it. So each episode building up to this, they had like kind of raced because Kenny's supposed to go there, and every time Shaq would jump out and beat him there and be like, "You're so slow, I'm 7 foot and you little," because Kenny Smith is not short, he's like 6'4". But when you're 7'2", like Shaquille O'Neal, everybody's small. So Shaq had this running joke that I can beat you to the board. Well, one time Shaq didn't pay attention. Somehow he was like, doing his sports casting and wrapping his foot around the monitor cord. So he jumps up. You could see it. They play in slow motion. He's watching when Kenny's going to go, and he sees Kenny go for it, and Shaq just jumps, but this cord is wrapped around. I remember watching it and being like, that is a big man falling. And my stepdad is about 6'7". He's a really big guy, not as big as Shaq, but he's 6'7", like 280, big power lifter guy. And he used to tell me when I was a little kid, when you're my size, you don't want to fall because something breaks because you're so big. It's like that full weight. Well, Shaq in this, he wraps the cord around his foot, jumps, and he just goes down. And it's like, I'm pretty sure this guy's going to die because he comes off this, he's up on a platform, hits the ground, but he was okay. And so you can use that as the Shaq test, okay? Meaning, if the person you're talking to wrapped the cord around their foot while they were talking to you and then goes, okay, I'm going to move on, and they trip, are you paying enough attention that they feel that not only you would care, because that's warmth, but they perceive you as a competent person? Because an incompetent person goes, oh, I see you falling, but I am so fat and uncoordinated that I can't grab you. I just go, oh, okay, boom. So that's what the confidence. So we'll call this the Shaq falling test. Every client you have, and even on your website, you ever gone on a website, you want to buy stuff, it seems like it's a good product, but you can't, so it's competent. It seems like a good product, but then you can't find maybe the company's address. You can't find a phone number, and you're going, oh, I could just see myself buying this, but I don't know if these people care, warmth, enough so you don't buy. That's why at my companies, we now are almost done. Well, I mean, we're almost at a place where you can call the office 24/7 and there's somebody here. Right now, we run from 5 or 6 in the morning California time till 11 at night. And soon, because we're open office in London, we'll be 24 hours a day. People know that they can call. That's trust. So your website can even engender trust in people by as simple as going, if you fall, somebody's going to be there to catch you. You can email us. You can call us. You can chat with us. I was on Microsoft. We're looking at some new accounting software. And Microsoft GP, it's called, one of their Microsoft Dynamics, they have a chat right there on their website. And it was nice. It wasn't the world's greatest person I was chatting with, but at least they had a chat and I knew I could get a hold of somebody whenever I wanted. All right, so the next frame. So if you meet Elon Musk, make sure he perceives you subconsciously as being competent enough and caring enough that if he trips, because he kind of walks funny, if you ever met Elon Musk. He was a nerd growing up, and he's still a nerd. I think he would admit that, okay? Number 2, think of the chicken pecking order, okay? Every time you meet people, they're going to try to put you in a pecking order. So customer, negotiation, And if you meet somebody, okay, who's of higher power than you, you cannot act the same. You just can't do it. In an imaginary world, you could. See, in an imaginary world, all people are born equal. Now, the American dream is that people have equal opportunities, but it's not so stupid as to say everybody's born the same. You are not born all with the same opportunities. A person, right now, millions of kids are born with HIV in Africa. You wouldn't say being born in a slum to a family where the mom died of HIV by the time you're 1 and the dad dead, and you're in an orphanage with starving to death. You're clearly not born equal to a kid born. I was in this movie 2 weeks ago or something. I shot with Andy Samberg. I'm in the scene with him. I'm in the opening of the movie. And I had my own makeup trailer. You know how they do those in the movies. It's pretty cool. I had my name on it. I was like, yeah, I'm in the movie. I'm a movie star now. But then you go to the makeup trailer. After you have a place to change your clothes, and then you go to the makeup trailer. And the makeup trailer, I was in there with Sarah Silverman. I don't know if you know who she is, the famous comedian girl. You'd know her if you saw her. She was dating Jimmy Kimmel for a long time. So when I was in there, how was I going to say that? There was a reason I had this. Well, I'll remember in a second. There's something about Sarah Silverman. All right, lost it. I'm not displaying competence right now. Your trust has gone down in my brain power. So higher power people are not going to see you the same way. Oh, I know what I was thinking. So Andy Samberg, I'm in the scene with Andy Samberg, so I meet him, and there was a lot. It's a real movie. This is not some little indie film. This is it'll be out next June if you want to check out my movie stardom, my brief stardom in a movie. He's the boss, you could tell. And there was a lot of people there. I'd say there was anywhere from 500 to 800 people on the set, okay? And when Andy came in, he was the king because he's the main lead in the movie. And then there's It's a Lonely Island movie, so there's the 3 directors. Judd Apatow was actually there, who, if you don't know who Judd Apatow is one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, especially with comedy. So there's a hierarchy here that you must acknowledge. We are not all born. Oh, I know what I was going to say. People born in Africa, HIV, they have very little opportunity at the beginning of their life. Sarah Silverman was born to kind of a Hollywood family. I think her uncle or something is Francis Ford Coppola. Isn't that right? Or is that Nicolas Cage? But Sarah Silverman has some family that not only was she born in the United States in a first world country, she was born healthy, she's pretty, she has all those natural attributes, but her family is powerful here in Hollywood. So she has more opportunity than if she had been born with HIV in Africa. So people are going to tell you all people are created equal. Maybe they are at a semantical level, like all people are created with the same, we should see them as, but all people aren't born with the same opportunities. That's without a doubt reality check. So what that means is you're going to walk into a situation, don't expect people to just go, oh, you're alive, you have DNA, well, okay, I'm just going to, yes, whatever, what do you want me to do? No. When you meet with a customer, when you're sitting down at a business negotiation, when you're cutting deals with lawyers, there's a power play going on. And you must understand how to negotiate the power plays. So basically, it's pretty simple. There's going to be 3 situations. This one had 2, this one has 3. Okay? So, and this is similar to my TEDx talk on the law of 33%. You are going to walk into situations with people higher than you. People on your level. By the way, warning, this is the danger zone. On your level is, let me put that, on your level. Watch out, danger, I'll put a little star. And then lower, somewhat also danger. All of these can be dangerous, by the way. So here's the good news about a higher power person. Let's say you mess up, right? So you meet Elon Musk and you are like, hey, how are you? And you like spill your drink on him, okay? So he has power, he has the ability to be like, F you, and bouncers, take him away, okay? The good news about that is he's not gonna pursue it after that. Because people, this book talks about it, they put humans who have high levels of power into an fMRI machine, a functional MRI, those big magnetic ones. And they've studied their brain. And powerful people, it's not that they don't care about you or do care about you. It's that you're not even in their brain. They're not even thinking about you. It's so you spill a drink on Elon Musk, he's not even like, oh, let me get back at this guy. Now, maybe if you shot him or something like that, but I'm just saying, you make a mistake, he's not going to use it against you for a long time. He's going to basically be like, oh man, and just watch it. And the fMRI machine basically says he doesn't realize you're in existence, okay? So that's good from that. The bad thing is, in order to negotiate with that person, you're going to have to break that barrier and make them realize that they have to pay attention to you. So just write that down. If you're with a high level person, and there's only one real way to do that, you got to show them you can do something for them. And if that sounds selfish, well, welcome to planet Earth, full of a lot of selfish people, okay, including you and I. Let's not exclude ourselves from that. Interesting in this book, if anybody here in this room, or you in your house or business where you're watching this, if any low-level person, like your janitor, was instantly promoted to CEO, their brain would instantly start to change. You know how you see in movies where it's like Gordon Gekko in the, what are those movies, Wall Street, where he's like evil, he's like, or you've seen the movie with the Wolf of Wall Street, so Jordan Belfort, and you see this and you're like, this guy's just evil. Just know this, if you got in that situation, or if anybody you knew got into power, 99% of the time, they would adopt. Now, they might not do the exact same things, but you will adopt this higher power mode, which is to ignore people. Now, if you're the Pope or the President or Mother Teresa, maybe you're an exception. If you're Mahatma Gandhi, but for the most part, high-level people are not thinking about you. And so the only way you break that barrier is you got to get into their head and talk to them about stuff they care about. You know what I talked to Elon Musk about? Electric cars. He pays attention. I talked to him about space and electric cars. I'm like, I could go and be like, you want to know what I'm doing with my life, Elon? Blah, blah, blah. He would have been like, okay, thank you. Just boom, he's gone. I'm like, I started with space and ended with cars. And that was interesting to him. And that's power for him. You don't get much more powerful person to meet. If you're in business, Elon Musk is the pinnacle right now. He started $3 billion companies that are also important, you know. So I'm practicing what I preach. To get past this, you have to show value, or you have to talk to them about the story that's already in their head. Remember that. That's a good dating technique. That's a good negotiation technique. That's not in this book, but I'm going to show you stuff not in this book. One of the most important things, humans are already playing out a story in their brain. When I met Elon Musk, I know the story already playing out in his brain. He just had a rocket blow up. So he's thinking about rockets in space. And yes, I was in the parking lot with him. He does drive a Tesla, okay? So he's thinking about electric cars. So if I bring up the fact that I'm buying an i8, the BMW hybrid car, it's already playing on the story in his head. A professor at UCLA, Frank Chindamo, calls this, you want to operate on mental real estate that already exists. You don't want to dig a new foundation and build a new house. Elon Musk is he's the 33rd richest man in America, okay? He does not care about the story in my head, trust me. He would not care. I'm like, I'm doing my live call tomorrow. What do you think I should do? Should I stand far away from the camera, or he would be like, what this fMRI machines is, he wouldn't even acknowledge that thought, okay? You can be mad at that. You can think he's Gordon Gekko or the Wolf of Wall Street. He's not. You and I would do the same thing. It's a biological reaction to gaining power. They did a famous study in San Francisco where they gave random people power over people and they told them to shock them. They made them prison guards, and ordinary people turned into Gestapo, Hitler, Nazi type people almost over a very short period of time. You give people power, think about prison guards. Think about police. You know, I'll tell you, a lot of people ask me about my Baltimore riots, and there's all this stuff about the police. I don't know, and I think both sides exaggerate, but I will tell you this. I owned nightclubs, and I had a lot of police working for me that we'd have to hire. And they have power, and it definitely changes them, okay? And it would happen to you and I. You give you or I a gun, you give us the ability to kill legally, you give us the ability to make people's life tough. It's a very strong temptation to change your actions. You know the worst experience I've ever had with a policeman? I've had a few. I had a police guy that worked with us that was. Now, I know a lot of them. I have a friend here in LAPD. He's one of the coolest people. So I know amazing LAPD people. And when I was in North Carolina, I knew amazing police officers that would save my life. I've had that situation, not quite life and death, but where policemen saved the day. I had a SWAT team one time come to one of my nightclubs. And I had one of my nightclubs, Spice Street in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I had one of the world's most wanted men. He was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted, a stone cold killer in the club. And I worked with police to get this dude out. He had like Uzis he had like 5 guns under there. He would have blown everybody away. So police in that situation saved my life, saved my club. But I also had a psychotic policeman that was freaking psychotic, that I was like, this guy I think would kill me. So reactions to power, some policemen throw themselves in front of the President of the United States, save his life. They're noble. Some people's reaction to power, they become, that guy was sadistic, man. I was like, holy crap. So Baltimore riots, I have no idea what happened because I wasn't there. But I know that it's not just the police. Sometimes, and you can see this, when people riot, that's when the masses get power. And look what the masses do when they get power. Because when you're rioting, you know that they can't arrest everybody. And so what do humans do once they gain power? So that means you have higher status than the police. So you're in a riot. The riot that was here in LA, the LA Watts riots, but what's the one, the big one? Rodney King one. Okay, when the Rodney King one happened, people that were disenfranchised, poor people, from where I grew up, Long Beach, Compton, Watts, they grew up, they got power, and what'd they do within one day? They were robbing people that had nothing to do with it. The liquor stores, that truck driver, they were throwing rocks at the truck driver's not involved. So the police might have a bad reaction to power. Yeah, but so do people. So that's why I said, the problem with Maryland, Baltimore riots, or the problem with, was it Ferguson? Was that the Missouri? The problem is that unchecked human power is a nasty thing. You know, that's one of the things that makes modern world a little easier. There's checks and balances. So just remember though, when you meet somebody, a customer who has power, well, so you meet a customer, you're selling something. Let's say you're selling a service. It's $1,000, $100, $10,000. Who has the power? Now, whoever has the power in that negotiation has an advantage. So let's say the customer knows that you need the money. Guess who has the power? The customer. So the best way is to establish very quickly in their subconscious that I got lots of customers. So if you don't buy, you lose out. And that's one thing Oren Clough talks about in his book on how to get investors. Pitch anything. He said you have to see yourself as the prize. Second you walk in there being like, I need your money, I need your money, you've become the commodity, they become the power. And what he said is, think about it. You're the only one with your business idea. There's thousands of investors. So switch your perception, okay? That's a powerful thing. So you have to show value. So if you have a customer who's ornery, you have to show them that I might fire you as a customer. In fact, I think you should I had a guy on a Facebook group just literally 2 days ago. And he wrote some nasty comment like, oh, Ty, you answer other people, but you don't take the time to answer me. And I wrote him, I just commented back on this Facebook. It wasn't actually a Facebook group. It was on my fan page. So I have 200,000 people on there now, okay? And this dude was mad that I didn't reply to him on Facebook. And then so I replied, I was like, dude, what's up? Well, why are you acting, I wanted to say, why are you a bitch? But I was like, why are you whining on Facebook to me? And he goes, oh, well, I'm in your 67-step mentor program, and I sent you a long email about all this business advice that I need, and you didn't answer me. And I wrote him back, and I said, but was that my deal with you? Was the deal is you buy the 67 steps, and then anytime you want to write me an email, I write you a long one back, because I said, right now, I get 500 to 3,000 emails a day, just emails. And I get, if you count comments and questions on social media, you're talking a solid, consistent 2,000 to 3,000 a day. So I said, why, if I answer you, then I can't answer somebody else. Why are you better than all the other people? You know, I made him rethink it. And what I basically was like, how about this? I don't like you as a customer because you didn't learn anything in the 67 steps, which is to be self-starter, not whine. If I go, Elon Musk, you want to hang out again? And he's like, no, I'm making spaceships. I'm not going to go, well, what, do you think you're better than me? Yeah, he does think he's better than me. I mean, that's welcome to reality. And I can get mad at that, or I can just be like, move on. The truth about life is there's not a person on this planet that cares more about your life than you. There's only one exception to that, one mathematical exception. An identical twin. That's it. If you do not have an identical twin, you are the only person in possession of 100% of your DNA. Your mom does not care as much about you as she cares about the group called her family. She will misprioritize your benefits for your other brothers, sisters, her husband. Lots of moms have single moms with children. For whatever reason, the husband died or they got divorced or never were married or whatever, they will marry a guy, okay, that's horrible for the kids, but good for the mom. You know how often that happens? Well, about 99.9% of marriages, because for the most part, step-parents are very bad for children. You cannot argue this either unless you've never read a book, because scientists have measured kids. They take their blood, just a little bit of blood, and they measure the cortisol in kids with step-parents, not just abusive step-parents, any step-parents. And they have elevated cortisol their whole upbringing, okay? Because why? Well, when a male lion meets a lioness who already has kids, first thing he does is eat the children, because a lioness, he wants her to take care of his kids. So if you're one of those, what I want to say to that guy on Facebook is, you don't understand the biological cycle of life, of hierarchies, of self-interests, of all these things. And in this advanced business call, if you think your customers care about you more than you care about you, it's not true. They care about themselves. That's why Peter Drucker said the only way to build an effective business is a business that caters to the needs of the customer. It has to be customer-centric. So if you build a business so you can become a millionaire, the odds are you won't become a millionaire as quickly as if you're very good at solving their problems. So it's like, that's why I said in this call, I'm changing it up to take more questions, okay? So there's a lot I can keep talking about that. On your level, people, just remember there's a danger here because they're trying to one-up you a lot because they see that you're just a little better or a little worse, so you're either a competitor, you're basically a competitor. So when you get in those situations, what I tend to do, okay, is I tend to distance myself from that because or else it gets into a real show-off competition, okay? So what I tend to do there is like distance. Let's say I'm a customer, and let's say I'm with a customer and I know they perceive me, the value I bring to the table. They're like, I can do stuff for you too, Ty. I tend to pull away and just be like, well, that is true. Here's what I have to offer. Let me know if you're interested. I tend to back off. In this higher situation, you got to do more proving. So if I sit down with Elon Musk, I got to compel him to stay for one more minute. I got to be like, hey, Elon, I did a book review on this book that you helped publish about your life, and I've probably helped you sell 50,000 copies in the last month, and I think I can keep doing that for you. I can get your story out there, and it will help the share price of your business. People don't know who you are, and they should. So see right there, I'm proving myself to him. When I get with people on my level, this is just a personal attribute. I tend to not like to try to compete with them. It just gets annoying. On the basketball court, I will, but now lower people, okay, what you have to realize there is that they are going to try to rise up if they perceive you there, but you can also sit back and relax a little more because those people are going to have to prove to you why they should be there. So let's say you want to buy a car. You go, it's a used car, you drive. Actually right now I'm working on buying this i8 car. If you haven't seen them, they're amazing. They look like Ferraris and Lamborghinis. They got the scissor doors that come up on the side, and they're also a hybrid car. So they're like part electric, part gas. And so they're good for the environment, better than a Ferrari and Lamborghini. Although my theory is whenever you get an electric car, you drive more because you're like, this is good for the environment. But then in the long run, my Ferrari and Lamborghini, I hardly drive. I literally filled up gas in a Lamborghini the other day, and I was like, I don't even remember filling up gas. I don't remember the last time I did. Because when you have a Lamborghini, you just stay close to home more. So it evens out, I think, in the environmental thing. A bunch of people driving 200 miles a day in a Prius is worse than me driving 1 mile in the Lamborghini. So, side note, unrelated to anything we're talking about, but when I'm negotiating for this i8 car, I've already established in my mind that there's literally 6 dealerships here within 30 minutes of me that have cars. So they're lower status so I'm treated in that way. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be annoying. I'm just basically calling them and being like, hey, I'm more like about transparent. I'm like, hey, I've been calling every dealership. I've realized there's about 10 of you within 45 minutes of me. You all have cars. So what I'm looking for is who's got the best deal, but not as much. They don't negotiate that much on those nice cars, but somebody that I want to work with because I want to know when there's something wrong with the car, I can take it in and I like you. So they're working for my business. I wouldn't do the same. You can't, by the way, do that at Ferrari. So Ferrari Beverly Hills is where I bought my Ferrari. That's the #1 Ferrari dealership in the world, and they're called the Ferrari Mafia, and they're basically like that. So I once walked in there and I was kind of like trying to pretend they were lower and be like, why should I get the car? They're basically like, you shouldn't because we don't care. That's how they are. It's insane. You basically have to work for it. Like when I was getting this car, I'm like, what's the price? They're like, they like kind of make, well, let me look at you. You're gonna pay a little more. They have their own bank. It doesn't even, if you buy a Ferrari and you finance some of it, let's say you want to lease through a business or whatever, however you buy it, they have their own bank, doesn't report on your credit. They're their own Illuminati universe. So I'm telling you, I tried that trick on Ferrari. It doesn't. Lamborghini's in between. Lamborghini's more like on my level. Like you have to, they'll kind of negotiate and kind of, Ferrari is completely sees themselves. And remember, it's not what they actually are, it's what they see themselves as. Guys talk about this in pickup artists, guys who teach other guys how to be better with women. Well, this happens the same way. You meet, a supermodel, she perceives herself as higher, you're not going to be able to just buzz in and be like, oh, you don't want to go on a date with me? Well, fine. What will happen is, once again, she's not being snooty, she's not being arrogant, she doesn't know you're in the room, okay, as a guy. That's also the same as women. If Brad Pitt, my friend, she was telling me she was hanging out with Brad Pitt the other day, and she's like, there's no man, and this is a very beautiful woman in Hollywood, she's like, there's no human I've ever met, and she's met them all, who's more charismatic than Brad Pitt. She's like, that dude's like a god. A lot of people say that. And so when Brad Pitt walks in, he's just chill. He's just like, Angelina Jolie, you want to get married? Okay. It's like looking at her, he's in the driver's seat. So always know where you are and act differently. Last, okay? And I want to take questions here, so I'll do a little. You can read the book. I'm giving you stuff not in the book, by the way. Ego. Okay, whenever you meet people, let's just call this the theory of the mind. So it's TOM. Tom. If you're old enough to remember cartoons, think of Tom and Jerry, okay? So what Tom means is that when people are under 5 years old, they don't realize that other humans matter, okay? Little kids. And psychologists, this is the psychological term, the scientific term, the theory of the mind. So a little kid is in an airplane. Doesn't feel good. It's 2 in the morning. The whole airplane is asleep. The little kid just cries. The little kid doesn't go, you know what, if I cry, the whole plane is literally going to want to open the emergency exit and throw me out the, out of the plane door. No, you just cry whenever you want to. So what scientists say is from about 0 to 5, okay, you only have a small amount of the theory of the mind. By the way, what theory of mind means is you perceive other people to have minds. What little kids perceive other people to do is just be there for them, like zombies. So little kids don't go, when you're little, you can make out the images of your mom's face and stuff pretty early. When you saw your mom for the first time, you did not go, she's an autonomous creature who wants to find love and happiness. You're just like, milk. I need milk. This is the milk department right here. Okay? This is the food department. So from 0 to 5, you gradually develop Tom. By about 5, what's happened is the reason you developed it is because of pain. So you've gone, wah! And somebody who didn't know you, who didn't have your genes, your DNA, like your mom, somebody else was like, shut up, little kid. And you were like, pain. Because kids might be young, but they do perceive threats. So if you stand over a little baby and go, shut up, that baby is like, ugh. So by the time you were 5, you have had some traumatic event in your life, I guarantee you. And that event woke up the theory of the mind. It woke up Tom inside you. So Tom and Jerry, that's how I remember it, by the way. You got to get good at memorizing things. You got to use stories, mnemonics, metaphors, analogies. This is a good one, okay? So Tom and Jerry starts running around your brain, and you start realizing there's other activity. But here's the problem. Most people just develop the very minimum. So have you ever met somebody who's now progressed and they're 40 years old, but you pretty much know that person is just in it for themselves? You're just there. And I think the best example you'll see this is usually in romantic relationships. Everybody, for the most part, if you live long enough, you will date somebody that you realize is just there for themselves, and you are a puppet in the game. Okay? Anybody ever been in that scenario? Or you've had a boss, or you've had whatever, a friend. Friendship's common. Sometimes you should add up your friendships and always make sure they're kind of evening out 50-50. So if you have a friend where you always pay for the movies and they never pay or even offer, it's not a good friend. That Dr. David Buss has there's a whole scientific formulation on what the proper balance is. So it's basically takers. There's a scientific word for it, but just remember it's takers. So what happens is every customer you're meeting, when you're giving a public speech, so let's say you're up on stage, there's 500 people out there in front of you, you got to establish trust. You have to find out where you fit in the power hierarchy of that room. And then you got to deal with the egos that are in there. And this is the simplest thing. People love themselves. The only people who don't love themselves are people who commit suicide. Okay? And those people's genes slowly disappear off the planet. That's why suicide will never be a massive problem in the world. It will never be, because the way evolution works, then they would cease to have kids who are predisposed to suicidal thoughts. You and I are the descendants not of our great grandparents. See, one of your great uncles committed suicide, but you didn't come from your great uncle. You came from your great grandma. So self-interest is so dominant. In fact, if I could be good at any of these 3 and I had to choose one, it would be dealing with this frame. This is the most powerful one in my opinion, because these are more nuanced. I've done situations where I don't look people in the eyes. I'm not warm. In fact, sometimes this can be violated. if you're high power, sometimes you don't have to do this as much. Now, you won't be as good. So perfect example, Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton does not do well in the trust area, okay? Because she has good at competence and skills that she shows off, but she doesn't show off warmth. But yet she still almost made it to be the president of the free world. I mean, that's the ruler of the free world. It's not like, so this one, potentially you can do bad at. This one, a little more important to do good at. So these are kind of in order of importance. Like the most important, next down the triangle, and this. So you want to be really good at this one, pretty good, and okay. Of course, it's amazing if you're a 10 at all of these, but start with the ego one. So what you want to do is, and that's also what, going back to talking with Elon Musk, Sunday night. That's when it was, yeah, Sunday. My life gets so many things thrown at me. Sometimes I have no idea where I am, and I'm like, Saturday, is it? July? It was Saturday. Oh yeah, it was Saturday night, yeah. So when I met him, the most important thing is to operate on his ego. Not in a manipulative way, okay? It wasn't manipulative. But when I bring up space or cars, that's something he prides himself in. And so what happens here is if you understand Tom, you'll start releasing drugs in people's brain. So at the end of the day, remember, you want to be a legal drug dealer. This is a good business to be in, by the way. This is a side note. You know, I just watched this movie Escobar about Pablo Escobar. It's not the world's greatest movie. It's got Antonio Banderas in it, or Benicio del Toro. I always confuse it. Has Benicio in it. And so Pablo Escobar was an illegal drug dealer. And drug dealing is so powerful in the world that he was the 8th richest man in the world. You know that? And he had it in cash. And it's better to be the 8th richest. If you have the 8th richest man in the world in cash, you know Bill Gates does not keep, he's worth 73 billion. He does not have 73 billion in a bank account. He has, some of them don't even have much liquidity. Elon Musk was a billionaire who's almost gone bankrupt all the time. Did you see 50 Cent file for bankruptcy? Thought that was interesting.
When?
Today. Doesn't necessarily, bankruptcy is not as bad as people thought. But Elon Musk has had a lot of net worth and no cash. So Pablo Escobar, drug dealing is so powerful that if you're a drug dealer, you can be basically the richest man in the world. The problem is, it's illegal, you know, it's unethical, and he ended up dying in prison or whatever. But there is a way to be a legal drug dealer. Each of these things that we're talking about here, when you engender trust and create trust in people, there's certain drugs that are released in their brain. We don't call them, you know, Viagra or Lipitor. They're called things like oxytocin, which is like a settling drug, okay? Cortisol is what you don't want to create in people. So if you start dealing the wrong drugs to a customer hormonally in their brain, you're going to release things like cortisol, which is fear, fight, flight, get out of there, adrenaline. What you want to be creating is that feeling like, oh, they're letting their guard down. So that would be oxytocin type things. Power would be testosterone type things, right? And now ego, I believe, without being a scientist exactly, it's more along those things like dopamine, which is a reward drug, which is like, yes, I like being here. You know, if you're going on a date with somebody, what you want to release in their brain is dopamine, so that every time you text, they feel rewarded. If you start stalking people, then it goes from dopamine, when they see your text, it's like, ta-dink. The first one's like dopamine. The second one starts going, uh-oh, this person might not have my best interest at heart. They might be caring about themselves. Then you start getting drugs like testosterone, maybe next, like trying to fight, get stronger, or then maybe they go into the next stage where they get adrenaline running from you. And then if it's a prolonged chronic thing, you have cortisol, and cortisol makes people feel bad. It makes you age, it makes your hair fall out. Now, these are extreme imbalance of cortisol. So when you meet people, you want the reward drugs going off. So the best way is to, again, operate on the story that's already in their head, where you're making people feel awesome by talking about the things that they care about, makes them the center of the universe. So if you go to your website right now, or your company, or if I walk in your office, or I look at the product you're launching, my question to you is my ego satisfied? Let's say you have a website that says, we are launching product XYZ. It's $59. And then for $59, you get 3 courses a week. You get this feature and that feature and that feature. That's not reward. Ego here would be like, buy this Ferrari and all your neighbors are going to think you're awesome. Why do you think people buy Ferraris? They buy power. I buy Ferraris because I like fast cars, but a lot of people buy them for other reasons. Okay? Why do people wear, suits? Why do people want to dress nice? Why is fashion a multi-billion-dollar business? Beyond multi-billion, hundreds of billions. Well, it's not just to cover you from the sun and to protect you. Then you could just wear a sack of potatoes or whatever. Potato sack, you could just cover yourself up. No, people wear clothing to stroke their ego and to gain power, to show off, I have Louis Vuitton, I have this, I have that, okay? Trust, people also wear clothes that are fashionable, which creates trust in people because they know that you care about what's hip in society. And if you care about what's hip, their brain goes, I can trust them to care about me. That's really the truth. If you dress it's a danger if you dress with zero style, because you're actually creating less trust, and people are going, what the heck's wrong with this person, okay? So ego is the one you want to get to, and that is just all about them. What makes them feel amazing? Reward, reward, reward. Every piece of marketing you send out, every email, if you have an email newsletter, if you were showing them a video, make sure it's about them and why it's so awesome for them to listen to you, okay? So now, 2 things. One, that's my brief synopsis of the book. You need to read it. It's not a long book. It's only it's big print too. It's not even 200 pages. It's like 180 pages of big print. I actually have 2 books here. So now I want to answer questions about the book. I want to answer questions specifically on your business, any question, and then I'm going to give the next book after we answer some questions. So let me get mine. iPad. So if you don't know how to ask a question, you literally just type it below here, press submit, and I will answer the question. I don't know if I'll get to every single one, but hopefully I get to most questions. So you can ask a question about the book. Now, for those in this program, some of you are missing out on what I think is some of the most important stuff. So this new curriculum is being released, but that's important. That's what I call the micro lessons. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is what we're doing twice a month, because this is interactive. You're reading a book, so 2 times a month, you got to read 2 books a month. That cannot seem like a lot to you. You don't have to read every word, but you got to be able to read 24 books a year that are specifically on business and career and money. At the same time, I just recorded a good video curriculum, depending on which level you're in this program, on how to do social media marketing. We're continually releasing stuff. But go into the vault of the past calls that I've done, okay? There's golden things there, and you can also look at the books that I've talked about. I think we have almost 50 or 60 hours in that vault. Those are things that will propel you forward, okay? Don't always be looking for the next lesson. There's so much stuff in there, that alone. And even if you've been on some of those calls, go back and watch them. I'm not doing this for my ego, trust me. I'm gonna read these books anyway. I'm getting on there because if you can do these, and remember, it's not information that changes life. We are moving, and the brand of this company, the parent company that owns everything I do, it's called Knowledge Society. For the last 20 years, we've been in the Information Society. You can go to Google, you type in I need information on how to brush my teeth. I need information on closest sushi place. But you know what? Information hasn't changed your life that much, and it never will. So if you're an information junkie, you are going to just be filling up your head with stuff that doesn't make your life better. It's only knowledge that matters, and knowledge is information that you're doing. You have to be acting on it. So today's information for you is nothing if it doesn't quickly transmutate and evolve and metamorphosize into knowledge. And knowledge means you're living it out. Elon Musk is a knowledge guy. He reads books, he gets information, and then he does them. He does. He knows what, he has the information in his head. This is what opportunity cost is. But then he acts on it and it translates into knowledge. Some people call it wisdom. Okay? I like the word knowledge because wisdom is more of a controversial word. It sounds more religious. Some people get put off by that. It's knowledge. And if you are religious, depending on which religion, most religions use the word knowledge and wisdom interchangeably. If you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, if you read these books, Proverbs, Solomon, he said, seek wisdom, knowledge. If you're Christian, the truth, I'm the way, the truth. The truth is like knowledge, but you have to do stuff. So whether you're an atheist, scientist, or you're the most religious person in the world, it's knowledge that sets you free. You could call it by different letters. Instead of knowledge, instead of K-N-O-W, you could use T-R-U-T-H. It's just semantics, right? Because whatever religion you are following now was not written in English. There's no religion that I can think of, maybe Mormonism, that was written in English. Buddhism wasn't in English. Hinduism wasn't in English. Christianity wasn't in English. Judaism, Islam, they're written in other languages. So when it translates to English, we just got to pick a random word we agree on, and I think knowledge is the best common ground word. It's different than information. Information is what you don't want to just have because it doesn't do anything. You know how many people, I'm telling you this, I've almost never met a person that doesn't have the basic raw information that it takes for them to become a millionaire. But I don't mean many millionaires. There was a guy who wrote on Facebook when I was talking to that other guy, and I noticed he just was like, you don't need TIES programs. All you need to do, and then he listed like 7 things, and I was thinking, you're right. You already know the 7. But you know what? I clicked and looked at that person's Facebook. They ain't doing it. So all they are, you know what they are? Those become the annoying kid that you knew in class. I actually know a guy like this. All right, better story. I actually had a maid like this. Okay, I won't say her name. I loved her. Best maid I ever had. She was a live-in maid for like 7 years. But her body looked like a blueberry. Okay, not in a good way. She was not in good shape. She literally was shaped like a blueberry. She was shaped like... I sometimes would think that about her. I'd be like, when she'd be walking away from me, she looked like a blueberry. So, but if you ever talked about losing weight, she would tell you about this one time, she was older, in her 60s, how back when she was in her 20s, she lost 20 pounds. And then she would go on to lecture you on information for 30 minutes about this diet where you take lemon juice. It was this insane diet, and I was just thinking, she just has information. Knowledge would be when I met Arnold Schwarzenegger, and if you asked him about bodybuilding, it's information put into practice, and you can see it even now in his body, and he's 68? 68, he still has more muscle than almost any person you ever meet. Okay, someone said, can you cover the lower part of the power trait? So when you meet someone below you, okay, in some ways you are in an advantage because you can basically be like, I have these Ferraris here, but if you don't want to buy them, I'll just sell them to someone else. You got to be careful with that. You don't want to come off as condescending, but you also don't want to ignore the fact that you have that power frame. Okay? If you're raising investment fund, you want to be able to, and it has to be authentic. So you can't, people will figure it out if you're tricking them. Let's say you have to sell, let's say you have a Ferrari dealership and you have to sell it or you're going to not be able to pay your bills. So if you try to act like, no, man, I really don't need it, a good negotiator is going to be like, that guy's lying. He needs me to buy. So what would be better in that situation is to be honest. If I was that car dealer, I'd be like, you know what? This is a car I need to move. It needs to be moved. I actually bought a Maserati last month. It's a perk for one of the CEOs that works for me. I promised him if he hit certain numbers, I'd give him a Maserati he could drive. It's mine, but I've never driven it yet, except when I bought it. And so when I bought it there, the car guy, the salesman, he was honest. He's like, look, I'm on a sales contest. If I sell this one Maserati, I went there on a Sunday. It was the last day of the month or Saturday or whatever. And he's like, I'm honest with you. I need to sell this car. So what that did was create trust. So you don't always have to try to be powerful. You can move. I call that modulation. Hello from New York. I've taken many personality tests and times I've given different results. Yeah, you got to confirm personality tests. At the end of the day, if you take Myers-Briggs and 5 times and you get 5 different answers, you need to find, there's people out there that you can meet in person that specialize in it. And like me, I know how to read the Myers-Briggs thing no matter what. I just had someone take the test last night. And the answer they got, I'm like, that is not what you are. You're answering the questions as to what you wish your personality was. They came off as, they were like the most extroverted person and they came off as an introvert. I'm like, no, come on. You gotta use a little common sense. The only one in the ENFP, the Myers-Briggs that's a little confusing for me is the N versus S. So you could be an N or you can be an S. You can be intuitive or a sensor. The E and the I is easy. Extrovert or introvert. Who's your friends that love to be around people and you see that it recharges their batteries versus the people who, yes, they know how to be social, but once everybody leaves the party, they're like, so glad to be by myself. Okay? Maya is an extrovert. She can go to parties and they can just never end and she's talking and talking and talking. Me, I'm between an E and an I. I'm a low extrovert, which means I can be social, but eventually I'm like, hell no, I got to get out of here. So that's how you know that no matter how many times you take the test and different results, you can figure out if you're an E or an I. An F or a T is pretty simple. If you're logical, you're a T. If you're logical to the point of not being empathetic, you're a T. If you're just going with your heart and you're listening to, kumbaya songs all the time and making your gut decisions, you're an F. And the last is a P or a J, perceiver or a judger. If you have a hard time making decisions, you're probably a P. If you sit there and think forever on like, oh, should I do this and that, and you just nonstop. And J's, another good way is if people usually break up with you in a relationship and not the other way around, you're probably a P. But if you're a serial breaking up with people, so you date and you're like, you know what, you're not the right person for me, thank you, and we are now not in a relationship, you're probably a J. J's, and if you're in between, you're either a low P or a low J. It's not that, you don't want to look, it's not exact science. So that's my answer to that. Love this book, made it to my top 150. I'd like to learn how to retain more of what I read. I'm reading more and understand the golden nugget. How does one go about retaining 365 golden nuggets? Easy. I have a WhatsApp group for everybody who works in my company. Every day before they go to bed, or before the end of the workday, they post a 120-second talk on some nugget they learned. It's that simple, systematic, just ding, ding, ding. So just get a YouTube channel. If you're shy, make it a private YouTube channel. Upload 1 video a day for 365 days. Make them 120 seconds. That'll force you to just have 1 nugget. Best way, every book you read, do a 120-second audio or video. You can share it with people make a blog. You can go to wordpress.com, make a free blog, and that's your journal. Jim Rohn says you should journal. And I don't like to journal writing, but if I died today, there'd be a journal of my life, each of these videos that you're watching. So I think video is a great way. Some of you like to write. Audio is another way. For me, it's easy as video. Hi, Ty. You're awesome, by the way. Oh, cool. Thank you. Regarding, see, ego frame. He's like, I'm going to start out by telling you you're awesome. I see what you're doing there. No. Regarding business, I'm attracting other people looking for help taking their products public, and I'm considering partnering up with them and helping and sharing the profits. But our products are vastly different, physical versus chemical. Would it be better to just help them separately and keep focus on our physical products or partner up to tap into his genius? So you got an opportunity, you can partner with somebody in a different business. You're in the chemical business, let's say they're in retail, and you're worried, here's what I would do. Set up a small experiment of working together. Sometimes people ask me, should I scratch everything I've been doing for 20 years and go partner with this new venture? I'm like, do a test. They call that, if you have allergies, the doctor scratches your back. It's called a scratch test. It's like a little nick, little test. If you're not sure what to do a little scratch test. Do a little teeny project with them. If you don't like being in them in a little project, you're going to be very thankful you're not in a big one. Most partnerships should start out as small joint ventures, almost all of them, with almost no exceptions, except if Elon Musk walked in the room. If Bill Gates walks in the room and goes, I want to start a business with you, Ty, I'm like, done. Shake hands. Because he's already been tried and tested publicly. Although, let me just take that back. It doesn't mean I might make a lot of money with Bill Gates, but he's a hard guy to work with. So even then, if you can do a small scratch test, it's better. So try that. This is more of a personal question. I'm pursuing a business management major, and I'm able to switch to a finance major, but I have to sacrifice a class. That class is called Entrepreneurial Implementation. These are my options. I can keep the class and pursue finance as a minor, or I can drop the class and pursue a finance major. I can drop the class and pursue a finance major and take entrepreneurial implementation after I graduate for an extra $4,000. Here's what I would do. When in doubt, 3 decisions, 2 decisions, 88 decisions, pick the most flexible one. So let's say, practical example, I'm opening an office in San Diego. I'm investing, or this Knowledge Society, which is like my holding company, is investing in a lab. A scientist is moving here from North Carolina. He's going to run the lab. Now, we were talking about where he's going to live, because he's got a wife and 2 kids. She's a dentist. He's a scientist. It's a big move. They're changing states. They're moving 3,000 miles away. And he's like, what should we do for housing? So he talked to one realtor. Believe it or not, a realtor suggested he buys a house because the realtor makes a commission when you buy. So the realtor was like, just buy. And then there was another guy's like, yeah, lease and this. And he was like, apartments, houses. Should I be on La Jolla? And I was like, which is the most flexible of those? Do that one to start. When you're not sure, always more flexible. So what I suggest he does do is get a short-term rental. Because then if he moves to La Jolla and then puts his kids in school, realizes he hates the school, realizes he doesn't care about the beach and he really likes downtown, he just, at the blink of an eye goes, I'm going to cancel my temporary lease in 30 days and move on. So of all those options, it sounds like the last one is the most. You pursue finance as a major, and then you can take the entrepreneurial class later for $4,000. So that means it's flexible. You haven't lost that. So you always have that option open. I don't know your exact situation, but it seems like that's good. Although you need to think it through. On this call, I can't. I'm just going to give you the general principle, flexible. So maybe write down the 3 options and really think through which of those is the most flexible. And then do that one. Now that assumes they're all equal. So if one's better but not flexible, like 100 times better, then sometimes you don't always take the most flexible. This is the rule of equal opportunities. When there's 2 equal ones, both awesome, and so you're pulling your hair out, then you pick the most flexible one. All right, I'm a musician, performer, linguist, and interested in world culture. I'm having a difficult time translating this into a value proposition that could immediately be a benefit. So if you're a musician, performer, linguist, that's 3 different things. So I would not group those together, okay? I'm just going to tell you what my friend Alex says, who is so smart that he figured out how to go from rags, and he emigrated from another country to the United States, American dream, no money, and he figured out how to make $1 million a day, okay? This is no dummy in business. This is what he would answer to you. I'm just going to give you his words. You have 4 objectives: musician, performer, linguist, world culture. You should be less worried about anything except that. The man or woman who attacks a forefront battle loses. Adolf Hitler lost for various reasons, but one of the main ones is he had 3 fronts. He was fighting the English and Americans from the west, he was fighting the Russians from the east, and then from the south, there was all this, it wasn't the Italians, but it was really the US came from the south too. We attacked North Africa, took North Africa, and came up from the bottom. British Britain did too. Australia helped too. You cannot win a three-front war, and you have four fronts. And so there's no advice I can give you better than one dominant one. You have too many. So pick musician. Now, maybe performer, you mean a musical performer, but linguist is nothing to do with a musician. Linguist, person who does languages. Now, maybe you're going to sing the languages or something, but in being interested in world culture, that's anthropology, that's sociology, that's definitely different. So that it's clarity of vision that makes you rich. Elon Musk said, what I'm doing now, people think is random. Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City. He said, I was planning this as a teenager. Singular vision. Okay? You gotta have, this is the number one thing. If I could be known as one thing that's gonna break the biggest bang for the buck in the entrepreneurial world, singular vision. You know what makes a good movie? Who were we talking to? Oh, my friend is the CEO of Bold Films. So Bold won an Academy Award this year. It's they won what's the movie? Bold did the drummer one.
Oh, Whiplash.
Whiplash. So they won 2 Academy Awards. Didn't it win 2? Because it got Best Supporting Actor, and Best Sound. So this guy, Richard, he's one. There's a couple head guys. He's a head guy at Bold Films. We were having lunch right here at this Italian place on Sunset Plaza. And I was talking about great movies he did Drive with Gosling, and he's got a new one. You see the new one coming out? He told us about it.
Ryan Gosling?
No, it's the new one. It's in Thailand. It's the action one with Owen Wilson. I just saw the billboard for it. He said it's going to win the Academy Awards. He's like, you watch. Anyway, I was talking to him, what makes a good movie, what makes a bad movie? He goes, singular vision. He said when these movies get messed up is when the producers come in and they go, my writer's going to help improve. And all of a sudden you're watching a movie written by like 3 writers and you're like, this is crap. You know, who wrote Star Wars? It's a one-man singular vision, George Lucas. It wasn't George Lucas. Now, he might have input from other people, but it's still singular. So, man, if I could go into every entrepreneur's brain, if I could go back on a time machine in my brain, I'd be like, Ty, number 1 tip, singular vision. The man who chases 2 rabbits catches 0. That's Mr. Confucius, who Will Durant says is the number 1 philosopher in human history. That's right from the number 1 philosopher. Okay, Ty, I'd like to post a conscientious customer's complaint. Your program requires us to leave comments after watching a video answering a specific question that you ask. I understand you want to be interactive. This way, you're not allowing us to be interactive with each other. That, I think, is a huge loss. If we had open commentaries, it would lead to people saying their opinion. Then this is a long one. You are exactly right, and we're almost done with that. So we're building a whole system of forums where everyone will be put in a group, part of a team, part of a tribe, part of the whole thing. So it's just not there yet. So that is a good observation, and it will, I started working on it about 5 months ago. It should be done, I'd say, by the end of the year. So remember what Reed Hastings says with LinkedIn. If you're not embarrassed of your first product, you launch too late. So my question, what I always ask myself ethically is, Ty, am I delivering enough value for what I'm charging? And if the answer is yes, then I'll launch it, even though I know it could be better, okay? Microsoft did that. They launched before their, so you don't have to be completely ready. What you do, but I will tell you this, I charge less money now. Every program I have, and I've told this forever, it goes up in price. 67 Steps is getting ready to go up in price again. So the only downside of me making stuff better is then it's more expensive. So for people, that's why I say get in when you can, because it'll be better and it'll be more expensive, because that's fair. If I got to put brain power in improving something, if I got to spend $1 million of programmers and UI, UX people, then the price goes up. So that is a good observation. Yes. Hey Ty, any advice? I met the other day the movie producer David M. Thompson, who did Mandela, Billy Elliot. He gave a talk which I attended. I wrote to him yesterday thanking him plus sending him a book. He responded straight away, thanking me he'd be a great potential mentor. Any tips on reaching out to him without seeming me needy or too pushy? Yeah, what you have to do is you got to build a big bank of people like that. I tend to maybe try a few times at the beginning and then back off. So you talk to him, emailed, he wrote back, maybe nonchalantly you got to find I don't know this person, but what's the story in his head? What's he already working on? If he's working on a police movie, you might want to write him and be like, hey, I'm friends with the chief of police, and we should all go, I'm going to lunch with the chief of police. You should stop in one time. It might be good for your movie. That's the story already in the guy's mind. That's a great chance of meeting him. So ask yourself, ego. That's the ego frame. So this guy, where is his? He already trusts you because he wrote back. Power is already set. He knows he's a producer. Okay, he's confident in himself. Now this is the one where you got to operate on. Okay. Now if he doesn't answer back and respond to that, maybe try one more time. But then I would back off and know that if you get enough of those people over time, it'll work out. Ty, my one sentence business plan is I want to help people read English. Oh, read more English books. Do you think there's money in this, or is it a good one sentence plan? English books, I mean the original books, not translated. I live in Iran. They've written in my country. 10 value, 10 rarity, 3 inimitability, 5. So you're saying you want to help people, Persian people who live in Iran, read English. So you're talking about translation and language school kind of thing. So if I understand that, you're saying that in Iran that's highly valued. I think that's a good business. There's tremendously large businesses now built around language. EF out of Sweden, #1 private company out of Sweden. They did $1 billion in revenue last year. One of the most watched TED Talks is how to learn any language in 6 months. I'm gonna catch that guy soon, I hope, knock on wood. But he's higher right now on the TED. I have the fastest growing TEDx talk in the world by far. So I need a little time to catch up to everybody. They've been out for years. But his talk hasn't been out that long. It is a fast growing one. There's a huge demand in a global economy for people to learn language, including Rosetta Stone is a couple $100 million company. So I would tend to think there's a good baseline there, and it's if you got to ask yourself, are you good at language? Like, I'm not naturally good at foreign languages, so I would not build a business around it. My friend Herman is naturally good. That experiment ended early, but I saw the video. Okay. Dr. Bruno first. Where should I be studying in college to understand money better? Oh, what should you be studying in college to understand money? I mean, I think everything, finance, economics. I think economics, the problem with college is they kind of destroy your taste for economics, because economics, they make it really hard. So you're always looking at like demand curves, and it's a lot of math. I like there should be a class, maybe there is, called the philosophy of economics, which is the general principles. You just need the general principles. Like, I can't tell you how many people don't really understand what it means to have opportunity cost, what it means to have substitution, right? What it means to have price elasticity, what it means that even supply and demand, which everybody says they understand, they don't act on it. Like, people will build businesses that have massive supply and no demand. Perfect example is no matter how much you teach people about supply and demand, people will still move to Hollywood to be an actor. And this is a town where you have immense supply and almost no demand for actors. You know how few actors you really need in movies a year? I mean, you're talking Game of Thrones maybe has 20 main characters, not even that many. And that's the #1 show basically on TV. Maybe you have 10 TV shows that are dominant with 20, maybe 200 TV people are really needed in the supply. Of course, you need a lot of extras and stuff, but then in movies, there's not even 10 A-list actors really. Who's the A-list men now? It gets so small. You have like The Rock. You got Statham. Johnny Depp's on his, but Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp, they're on their way out, man. Arnold, look at his last movie. God bless him, I love him. But, even the movie, they joked around about it. They're like, oh, you're getting old, Grandpa. So there's not even 10 A-list actors a year. AA. DiCaprio. When's DiCaprio's last movie come out? He hadn't even put a movie.
This year, The Revenant.
By the director of Birdman.
but it's not out yet, right?
No, fall.
I think right now the biggest draw guy is probably The Rock or Vin Diesel, just because of. But I think The Rock is the big one this year.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale hasn't been out in anything for a while. No.
What's his name? Tony Stark, Robert Downey.
Yeah, Downey, but he's just in one thing. The Rock is like San Andreas. He's like in, he was in
Yeah, The Rock.
Fast and Furious. Tom Hardy's relatively big. If you haven't seen Mad Max, that is a movie right there, man. That was the best movie of the year by far. But anyway, not to digress into Hollywood stuff. My point is, when you understand economics, you won't spend your whole freaking life. So I think economics is good if you can get past the really boring stuff. I don't think you need to know how to completely optimize the demand curve and understand the shifts versus, I get it. There's shifts versus movements up and down. Get the big picture out of college and you'll be good. And then try to focus on, one thing in college. In college, people who get quadruple majors, my friend got a quadruple major. Well, I can tell you his bank account versus my other friend who just got a PhD in one thing, data. That dude has a PhD in data versus a guy. I have a friend who has a major in math, biology, chemistry, and I don't know what the fourth one. I'm like, why? That's because he's like, well, now I know a lot about stuff, but I'm like, yeah, but every time you were doing this, you weren't learning on this. Obviously, they're somewhat related. Now, remember, I do read lots of books. So you might say, Ty, these books aren't all on the same subject, but I have just one objective from reading, and that my reading objective is read one book a day in many subjects because I'm not optimizing for career. If you go to college to make maximum money, you would want to optimize around one focus. I read now, not just for my income. So I have let me just show you guys something. I haven't shared this with anybody publicly, but I'll share it. This Knowledge Society that I'm launching, it's all about open information. I'm not going to be open about everything, but as much as reasonably can, I will try to be. So, my current iteration of my one sentence plan for me personally. So I have a one sentence plan for each business that I have. So Knowledge Society has a one sentence plan. The 67 Steps programs, we call them the 67 Step brand. That brand has one. I've got different companies. We're launching a health brand. That 8-pound challenge brand has one objective. So the 8-pound challenge is to show people how to use micro goals to lose weight and keep it off. That's just one sentence. So we're not showing people how to become a bodybuilder, and it's specifically for women. So show women how to lose 8 pounds in micro steps, just 8 pounds at a time, and then keep it off. It's better to go, if you're 160 and you should be 130, best thing to do is go to 152 and stay there for a while, then go to 144, stay there for a while, versus what most diet plans are like 160 to 130 in a month, and then the yo-yo diet, people put it all back on. So each business I have, but you want to have a personal objective, okay? So mine is to live the good life, to live the, quote, good life, and document it for others. So basically, the reason I'm wearing sandals right now is because this matches my single objective goal. I do not have a goal to impress you by my footwear. Maybe if I own Nike, what's the guy who owns Nike? Phil Knight? If I was Phil Knight, it'd be very important because my objective there, if you own Nike, is to impress people with shoes. Mine is, what am I already doing in my life? And I put a camera in front of it, or I write an article, or I post a picture of it. That Elon Musk picture, that is not contrived. I didn't, call Elon Musk. It's just like living my life. There's Elon Musk. Here you go. I'm sharing it. So this is just everything I do. Now I have a definition of what the good life is. Okay, there's a little nuance to it, but that's it. So every frame, let's say, for example, somebody goes, Ty, I have an idea for you. You buy this business, and I guarantee you will be a billionaire in 10 years. Okay, you buy this hotel, my dad's selling his shares in Hilton Hotels, you take it over and you'll be a billionaire. Okay, what I would do is go, here's my vision and my guiding North Star for my life. Live the good life to document. Does running a hotel entail for me living the good life? And I would say no. Don't particularly, I wouldn't mind being an investor, but I don't hate that business, but it's not the good life for me per se. If someone said, Ty, you could become Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, every day he wakes up, he goes into his office. He lives in the same house in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been to his house. You can see a picture on my Facebook. You then drive down the street 2 miles and you're at his office. It's a building exactly about the same size as this one I'm in. He has 20 employees. He then pulls out research articles and he just researches all day long companies he reads what's called 10Ks, which are not just 10Ks, but deals. And he just reads them. And he says he reads on average 8 hours a day. Then he does his little press things and this, and that to me, so if I could be him, I could go back a time, start when he started and just be him, I would say no. Even though I'd be a billionaire, even though I'd have, all that prestige, it's not my guiding one sentence plan. Maybe the sentence plan would change. Now, if you ask me, do you want to be Elon Musk? Again, I would say no, even if I could be the 100th richest man in the world. Why? Because I'm not an engineer. I get no pleasure I actually don't like engineering. I learned that about myself. I'm not that good at construction stuff. I like living things. I was always good with animals on a farm. I could train dogs. I could train horses. I'm good with people. I can sit down with people and talk with them. I can lead people. I can give a speech. So I don't want to be Elon Musk. Let him be Elon Musk. That's his one sentence plan. So the guiding light of this keeps me from doing the wrong thing and getting off on a rabbit trail for 20 years. If you don't have that, this one sentence thing that's really well thought out, I can predict you are minimum going to take 10 extra years to get what you want. And just consider that a prison. Because when you go to prison, my dad went to prison. I didn't grow up with my dad. He didn't tell me much about it. But one time in my life as an adult, I was able to get him to say, I said, what'd you think of prison? Was it rough? Now, my dad was a big bodybuilder, so I was like, is it rough? He's like, no, man, I was the strongest guy in prison. But he said it was boring. And he said, you waste your life away. You sit on a yard all day. I saw a thing of Al Capone's jail cell. It was about 2 of these desks. It was the size of your bathroom. They stuck Al Capone in there for God knows how long. I can't remember. I think he died of syphilis or something in jail. But the point is, to waste away 10 years of your life chasing fairy tales is the same as to be in a prison of your own mental making for a decade. So you better figure out your one sentence thing. This is mine. And then I have a definition here for mine. So for some of you, it's like to teach other people languages in the shortest amount of time. For some of you, it is, now if you follow my friend Alex Mayers, don't make any of the normal functions of life your life vision. So don't say it's like to have the best family. He's like, everybody has families. Like 99% of people have families. So you don't make breathing. I don't want anyone's one sentence plan, unless you're gonna be a yoga, meditation, Tai Chi teacher. Don't make it to breathe better than it, or whatever. Optimize around something. So for example, Joel Salatin, it's funny. He had this singular vision idea when I was 18, and I only realized it many years later. He's a Christian. Every night he would pray, and he would say, God, thank you for allowing us to give the gift of good food to the world. That's his one sentence plan. He wanted to do it in a way that left the land better off. So he wanted to bring good food to the world and grow it on soil and farmland that was getting healthier every year. This is one vision, good food from good soil. And so that's been a guiding light for him and kept him from being ADD and going, I don't want to be in the video game, but like people get lost in this world and you can't be one of them, or else you're in a prison of your own making. And I told you, it's a minimum sentence of 10 years, okay? A lot of you are right now, if you're older watching this, You're in this program because you are pulling out of a tailspin of 40 years of a prison of your own making. It's the prison of not reaching your full potential. And that's the nastiest prison. Do not get in that prison, my friend. You'd be better off to spend a year in regular prison than 10 years of a max. See, people don't realize they're in prison. They're driving their cars, they're going to work, but they're in prison. They're going to a job they hate. They're commuting in traffic. Their kids, it's chaos. They don't really like it. It's all chaos for most people. You don't have, when someone cuts you off in traffic, don't get that mad. They're in a prison of they're an a-hole. They're already in their own prison. Good people don't think like that. So, yes. So that is mine. So anytime you're going to post here, about broad kind of vision, I'm not going to, you're talking to the wrong guy. If Steve Ballmer, who helped start Microsoft, he said, you're lucky in life if you do one good thing. That's remembered throughout the ages. Like, if you're a movie producer, just make one good movie. It's all you got to do. George Lucas is only remembered for Star Wars. I don't know. Did he do anything that anyone? No one cares. They're like Star Wars. What'd you say? He did Howard the Duck. Yeah, that's a negative. Yeah, usually what ends up happening is all your future stuff takes away, retracts the value from the one good thing you did. All right, next. Now, some of you, by the way, just to be clear, there's different levels in this program. So some of you are in the money program, some of you are in the entrepreneur program, some of you are in the persuasion program, and some of you are in the inner circle. Okay? Inner circle is the highest level persuasion. You have access to different things. If you're in the money program and you see the value in this stuff, cutting decades off your learning curve, you can just email support our help button and be like, how can I upgrade to the highest level or higher levels? I'm telling you, spend all of your money that you can on shortening the learning curve. Money can be regained. You cannot regain your time. You can lose one. Donald Trump lost $9 billion. He came back just fine, stronger than ever. He is stronger than ever. He's richer than he ever was. You can recover from any amount of money. You could drop, the top programs I have are 100 grand. One-on-one consulting stuff, and we're rolling out a program where it's called Done For You. My team here will actually set up your business and run it. So that's anywhere from 100 grand to $1 million. If you spend it on that, and you can get all your money back, but you can't get time back. Not an ounce, not a moment, nothing. And the greatest scientists have tried to figure that out. Einstein, my grandfather was a top scientist, and he used to tell me from a little kid how Einstein, and my grandpa worked at high levels. He worked with a guy who was working on a Nobel Prize for astrophysics. My grandfather understood astrophysics, was at Yale and all that stuff, and he said Einstein thought that he figured out time travel. If you could go the speed of light, time would start to slow down. If you could go faster than the speed of light, you could go reverse, all this stuff. But they all were wrong. Time will never reverse. It's so nasty that it's beyond belief. Okay, Ty, what's the difference between 67 Days Persuasion and Greenbelt? So Greenbelt's the old beta program. All the Greenbelt stuff is now in the 67-day persuasion. And then we keep adding more to the 67-day persuasion. It keeps getting better every day. I just recorded one that was just released yesterday, I believe, or today, a new 67-day persuasion. So if you're in the inner circle or you're in the 67-day persuasion, watch that video. It's a good one. You will make more money if you implement it. I'm working on starting a business to improve the health of livestock animals. Do you have any insight on creating a cost-competitive product against the corn and soy industry? Yes. Joel Salatin has one. Very cost effective. And the biggest companies are coming to study what guys like Joel Salatin are doing. So I would look at a magazine started by one of my mentors or run by one of my mentors, Alan Nations, called Stockman Grass Farmer. That's a great one. You could read HRM, Holistic Resource Management by Alan Savory. He has a great TED Talk. There's a lot of stuff with food. Thai and Iran people don't read English books because they're so rare due to boycotts. Yeah, well, if you could smuggle them in, that'd be a cool job, be a book smuggler. It'd be like a drug dealer, but you're just smuggling knowledge. I like that. Ty, I've read and reading many books on your list and I'm getting some great knowledge up to this point. I'm in college studying engineering business and I must start repaying loans in 2.5 years. Currently only have cash on hand in 4 figures range. Should I continue investing in knowledge with it for now, or should I invest for capital gain now? When you don't have a lot of money, you should invest mostly in knowledge. Just think about it. If you have $1,000, you put $1,000 in the stock market, even if you got, after taxes and fees, if you got 5% ROI net, and then if you subtract inflation, it goes down even lower. Let's say 4%. So the true wealth would mean at 4%, it takes 20 years to make $2,000 out of $1,000. Okay. So if you want to wait 20 years, but $1,000 into knowledge can be 1,000% ROI in one day. Sometimes I've seen it, not always, but it depends on how good the knowledge. So when you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't make sense to invest in, S&P 500 index fund. Unless you're just teaching yourself. You could invest $100 in it just to teach yourself. It is a value to teach yourself the stock market, but there's no money there, man, none. And do the math. Even if you got 15% return, even at 15% return in 6 years, you'd have $2,000. In 12 years, you'd have $4,000. In 18 years, you'd have $8,000. But 1,000. My friend put $1,000 in a dating website in the UK, and then he put some money on some credit cards, and he made $80 million last year. In 7 years, he went from, I have a friend in New York, he went bankrupt in 2000. You remember the, what was it called, the Zone bars or something, the Zone diet? Yes, one of those diets, he was one of the guys that helped start it somehow, I forget what happened, and he went bankrupt in like 2002. Now this guy, so he had zero money. He said, I didn't know what to do. I needed more knowledge. So he learned how to build a business from scratch. Now this guy makes, I don't know how much he makes, but I would guess $3 million a month or something like that. Ty, I'm curious, how do you think this system compares to your PACE system? So the system in this book so they're different, because this system, the ego, the power, and the trust, that's all personality types, okay? The PACE system teaches you the specifics. So for example, what creates trust in a P person? Okay, you can use less warmth on a practical person and more logic, more competence. So what happens is the PACE system, of course I made it, so I'm biased, is better than this, because the PACE system shows you how to use each of these. This is more like elementary level, fundamental, which is important. And then you put the PACE on top of this. It's like supercharging it. Ty, for a new real estate agency, any ideas on competitive advantage? Yes, be better at persuasion and better at marketing. Real estate business, so you need to have a singular vision as a real estate agent. The singular vision I would have is pick an exact niche. So I would just dominate a niche. I'd be like, I specialize in houses between 50 and 150,000, or I specialize in 10 million plus houses. Singular vision, and then you could have your one sentence for the customer. So I show customers how to buy $50,000 to $150,000 houses with no cash down. So you have some insight into a bank that will fund, maybe you work with veterans, because veterans can get special loans. So I help veterans buy $50,000 to $150,000 houses with no money down. And your website is called veteran no money down $150,000 houses.com. And that's what your business card says. Everything's a unified brand. You can always make another brand later if you get better. But don't be like all, what realtors do? This is how dumb most realtors are. No offense to any realtors out there. They do bus stop ads. Have you ever seen, like, you're sitting on a bus stop and on the back they like painted their face on there and it's like, call Bob, the realtor. I'm like, oh, I'm sure there's a pouring in of phone calls for, do you think anybody picks their realtor by a bus? I'm like, that's their idea of a good idea. That's not how real estate agency works. So one, just be smart. Always ask yourself, would I buy from that method of marketing? If the answer is no, then never do it. Never, ever break that rule of marketing. Have you ever in your life called somebody from a bus stop ad? So, okay, then don't do it. It's that simple. That is the great, Yes. Ty, can you give us some insight for pace typing, like a preview? So in that persuasion program, what you want to do is always be thinking. Practical, logical person. Like I told you, when I met Elon Musk, he's an E. He's emotional in the sense that he's like sensitive and guarded a little bit, okay? And then he's a P, I believe, because he's an engineer. Most engineers are practical. They're like mathematical. Then he's probably an A, okay? So my read on Elon Musk is E first, P second, action third, because he's an entrepreneur. He might be action number 2. He might be an EAP or an EPA. He's definitely an S last. He is socially very awkward, okay? And my other friends hung out with him before, and he's like, because I was like, he's pretty, he even walks funny. I mean, not funny, but he walks, he's smart, so he's in another world. You know, whenever he kind of walks like that. But I'm not making fun of him. What I'm saying is, there's lots of personality types on the planet. There's no one better, just because you know how to walk. I was at Mel's Diner last night at 1 in the morning. Somehow I ended up there. And there was a dude walking out who was like walking like George Jefferson. You know, like with a swag. He was literally going like that. And I was thinking, are you from 1973? So you could tell a lot about by a walk. I remember it was so weird. Man, I went in Mel's Diner yesterday. Weirdest. That place is so weird. I cannot tell you. This is what, okay, so I walked in the thing. There was 4 guys outside smoking. It's on Sunset Boulevard. It's a very famous diner. One guy goes, "What's up, Mark Wahlberg?" I guess people sometimes say I look like Mark Wahlberg. Then other people started saying it. So it was like weird walking into a place with people calling your name. Then I walk in, I turn right. It is Ron Jeremy, the porn star, sitting there with 2 people that they look like corpses. I'm not making fun of them. It was so weird. It was like Halloween. And he has a flip phone. So he was texting on a flip phone. Okay. This is weird. No, I know. I was like, I should take a picture, but I'm like, then I walked past there and I sat down on the table, and there was these 3 black women that were older, and they were it was like they were trying to stereotype black women, okay? Like old black women. They were like, and by the way, I've now found out I'm 8% black. So in my DNA, I'm 8% black. So I can talk about black people and not be accused of racism. They were like, one girl it was like 50-year-old. I won't even go into it. It was just weird. And then there was a couple that I could not figure out if it was the dad and the granddaughter or if they were dating. I mean, there was like 60 years between them. But it didn't look like a dad and daughter. That was off to the left. And then literally, at first I was with Ken, I was like, this is weird. Right when I said that, a guy comes in with he was probably 60 and his girlfriend was probably 50. She had like one of these Beverly Hills crazy plastic surgery faces. He had, I should take a picture of this dude. He had, you know, like, what are the sunglasses you wear when you go to a nightclub? They're like the big ones, like kind of wrapped one where you're trying to look cool, but he was like 60. He had a jumpsuit top on with a huge V. He looked like John Travolta in Grease. Yeah. He had his so much gray hair coming out of his chest. He had a medallion on, and he had like tight pants, and then he had like Zach Galifianakis Hangover, you know those bags? And I was like, this guy must have gotten styling advice from like an 18-year-old going to it was weird. And they came and they sat way off in the corner, and I was like, this is getting weirder by the moment. Then they got up and sat next to us. I remember just eating, being like, this is a freak show. That's when I saw Ron Jeremy to send a text. It's so long. He's probably spent the whole time I was eating, he was trying to send one text. He has a flip phone. Like, I didn't even know you could buy flip phones anymore. He's famous for being very cheap. He goes to the airport and he won't buy suitcases, so he just brings black plastic bags. That's it. He's famous for it's all weird. Hollywood's weird, man. Don't get old and not achieve your dreams in Hollywood, because those are the weird. You'll be dressing like that guy. Literally, it looked like Halloween, but it wasn't. It was all different. Oh, and then the last thing, a girl came in who I'm pretty sure is a supermodel, because I think I've seen her before. But she was so tall and so much like a supermodel, just walking through alone. I guess maybe they were driving by and she needed to use the bathroom, was the only thing open. So it was all these characters, and then this famous, I forget her name, supermodel walked right past us. She had the longest. I once Googled, I saw an article on the girl with the longest legs in the world, a famous model. This girl, her legs were that long, and she had high heels on. She was I'd say she was a solid 6'5", and maybe like 118 pounds. But pretty, but just, it was weird, man. And then when she walked by, those three black, like stereotypical women started talking about her for a half hour. They're like, that girl looks good, because the supermodel was a black supermodel. And they were like, yeah, she has good cheekbones. And they were like, I used to look like that when I was young. And I was looking at those women, I was like, they didn't look like that. It was hilarious. Sometimes, this is my vision, is to live the good life, and I just document it. Like I just video what I'm already doing. It would be a good show. Last night would have been a show people would have watched around the world, and you would have been like, oh yeah, Ty set that up. But I did not set that up. I've had so many. So yeah, that's my singular vision. Make sure you have yours. All right, I'm gonna answer just a few more questions, then we need to end here. Mel's Diner, Hollywood. Some weirdness going on at all times. So someone said, establish a community program where I can rehabilitate the homeless. So I wouldn't put in your one sentence plan, don't be too specific in the sense of, don't say, what you want to say is something about the homeless. So like your life plan is eliminate homeless families, or drop the rate at which homeless people find shelter by 50% or something. Didn't he do a film about the African-American fighter pilots, George Lucas? Did he? Yeah, Red Tail. But George Lucas isn't known for that. He's just known by one. What's there? Okay. All right. A few more questions, then we'll stop here. What pattern do you follow for your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter posts to make them more engaging? So I just recorded a good video on what I call the social media fundamental strategy. It'll work. There's going to be new social media. So there's a video we just released. It's in the entrepreneur program. So if you're in the money program, you don't upgrade. I'm telling you, for all the people in the money program, if you can afford it, upgrade up. There's so much good stuff. The basic thing is you have to understand. Well, I can't explain it in 1 minute. It's too long. But you want to get social right. Only recently does social really matter. 5 years ago, social didn't matter. You could be fine without a Twitter. Yes, question. Yeah.
How do you know your one sentence plan, if it's too broad and general or too specific?
So how do you know if your one sentence plan is too broad or too specific? It's too broad when there's no action items. So let's say, the perfect example is a lot of people tell me their one sentence plan is to change the world. That is not a goal. That's not an objective. To change the world is something that happens when you're doing something else. That's like making a plan of drinking water, right? While you live, you're gonna have to drink water. So you can never make drinking water, which is a constraint. So changing the world will happen when you do your other objective. Now, too specific of one would be something that can't pass the test of time. Like, for example, your life goal is to go to the next, when's the next Olympics? 2016? So let's say your life goal is to go to the Olympics. Well, then what are you going to do after 2016? Or if your life goal is to start create a competitor to iPhone. That's not a life goal, because in 30 years, we're not going to even have phones. Guarantee you're going to have something. You're going to have like Google Glasses. You might have a chip in or something like that. So if your goal is like to make a phone better than iPhone, that's your life vision, that'd be a bad one. Or even a business vision, that'd be a bad one. What you could say as a better version of that would be to create, let's say you like engineering, to create devices that allow humans to communicate more effectively. See, that'll be going, you'll be good. You'll be in a business for 40 years doing that. So don't be too specific on time-sensitive things, things that will become obsolete. I wouldn't even make a business, you know, people are like apps. They're like Life Vision is to make cutting-edge apps. I don't think apps will be here either. There's going to be new frameworks of technology. If you don't believe me, do you know how much the world's changed in 20 years? It's unrecognizable. And the next 20 years, it's going to accelerate. It's going to be wacky. It's going to be like Mel's Diner. It's going to feel like that. You're going to be like, what is going on, man? We got porn stars and supermodels and fat people and John Travolta old men. Okay, so two things left. One, I want you to leave below and take a second here. I want you to take, 30 seconds to a minute. I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to set it for 2 minutes. Write out a well-formulated thought, main golden nugget you got from today, and the main action item from that nugget. So the golden nugget's the information, but the gold isn't worth anything if you don't cash it in. If you just got a chunk of gold in your hand, you can walk around all your life. You're going to be like Golem. You're going to be like, my precious, It's only when you go to you can take gold to a gold dealer and he'll give you cash. So you implement it into lifestyle change. So my question is, what's the piece of gold you got, the information, and how are you going to transform it into action, which will make it knowledge, okay? So let's set the timer here. Tell me when 2 minutes is up. And after that, I'm going to assign the next book, okay? The next book. So 2 minutes, and I'll read some of those. Leave that below, please. All right. So I've got 3 choices. I've never tried this before. 3 choices that you guys could choose from. We'll take a quick tally vote here. Which is the next book, okay? So, Bill Gates says the #1 book everyone should read if you want to make money is that book. It's called Business Adventures. Now, it's basically 12 stories of people who built big businesses and how they do it. It's kind of Wall Street oriented, finance oriented, okay? On business. So that's #1. You can vote. #2 is Do the Kind Thing. This is a guy who wrote the book on, he made kind nutrition bars and food. This is a little lighter reading. Then there's this one. So lightest reading is this one, Do the Kind Thing. I'm trying to get a feel for whether you guys you want me to hit you with the full-on stuff. I prefer the hardcore stuff, but you might not like that as much. This is the middle level hardcore, Business Adventures, and this is the most hardcore book. Okay, The Making of Behavioral Economics, basically the new science of understanding, like neuromarketing. So Richard Thaler is a very famous guy. He wrote a book called Nudge. So he's a professor of behavioral science and economics at University of Chicago, which is basically the most prestigious school in the world on economics. So my vote is that one, okay? Or this one. I actually shouldn't have said because I'll skew the voting maybe. But don't be afraid. You don't have to agree with me on this. So those 3. So let's real quick. Do the Kind Thing, Business Adventures, or Misbehaving by Thaler, okay? I'll do that while I read some of these, and then we'll pick in the next 2 minutes, we will pick which of those 3 books. Now, if some of you are massive machines, you can just buy all 3, but we'll have we will not have a multi-objective goal. I'll have one goal. 2 weeks from now, you've read that book and understand it. Okay, so the one takeaway. Okay, almost everybody has said, one person said Business Adventures, everyone else said the hardcore book, Misbehaving, #3. Someone said, information put into practice, I will test my sales-client relationship by focusing on their individual egos. As of now, I treat everyone the same. Yeah, don't do that. I wish we could do that. Got the knowledge of who I am, and I'll use this knowledge to build up the tools. So I'm going to spread more knowledge, be more reserved around people who are on the same level of power as me. Could never tell why I had friction around certain people. Yes. The most dangerous people in life, they're actually nuanced answer is the most dangerous people are slightly below you, but who think they're going to pass you. Those are the people that you got to watch out for. If they're completely on your level, it's kind of like I have this guy, super big guy, and when he meets another guy exactly as big as him, they usually, like, I've been out with them, and he's big. He's like 6'7", 305 pounds of muscle. Okay, so when I said big, he's legit big. And when he meets another 6'7", 305-pound muscular guy, they don't get in fights. Because unless it's like, they don't go up to each other and be like, yo, what's up, man? Let's see. No, they're basically like respect. I've seen them. It's actually hilarious. They always acknowledge each other, too. This guy, Chris, who was head bouncer, he's 7'2". Whenever there's another 7-foot guy around, they're instantly go like, what's up? So when they're exactly on your level, they're not so dangerous because they don't want to fight you. You know, in business, they don't want to fight you. Your most dangerous is like that up-and-comer who's on a quick path. You're already here, and they're like rising quick. They'll do a lot of things to pull you down because you're within their targets. So the nugget, talk about the story that's already in their head and build it into incorporating their ego. Someone said, to persuade people, you have to tap into the theory of mind and what their ego wants. Key takeaway is that people with more power will not notice you unless you show yourself to be useful or engage in with what's on their mind. Yes, that is a good synopsis. Golden nugget, keep trust, power, and ego in check and focus on worth, confidence, power level, and TOM, theory of mind. When meeting people, I'll start implementing the PACE system. What is a constraint? What a constraint is in terms of opportunity cost is a new way of looking at intentions for my future. Yes, you will have a lot of constraints in life. Sleeping is a constraint. It's not a purpose of life. You ever meet someone who says the purpose of their life is to sleep, you know you're talking to a lazy person. If they like literally elevated. If you ever meet someone who says the purpose of their life is to have children, that you do not have children. I mean, I'm not saying trying to take away from the fact, but everybody has children. Stalin had children, you know. Dictators have. It's not like because you had children, you automatically live a great life. People with horrible lives have children. So you could say, you could incorporate your children into your plan. It could be like, you know, to revolutionize XYZ, me and my family. That would be fine. That would be a higher level goal that's not just built around constraints. Ian said, takeaway is to become a legal drug dealer. Yes, you become a legal drug dealer. That's what musicians are. Why do you think Justin Bieber, according to the Clout Score website, is now more recognizable than President Obama? Because President Obama doesn't sell drugs. He does sell an authority drug. You see President Obama, he creates patriotism, he creates authority bias, but Justin Bieber creates love songs. And women, he's their drug dealer. And he is very recognizable. All right, let's see if any other people voted for anything, because it looks like misbehaving is winning by a vote of 90% more than, 9-1. Okay, so it's settled. We only have about 2 people that said, somebody wrote Cat in the Hat. You can read Cat in the Hat. Someone said the hard, okay. So I had only 10% of the votes. Nobody voted for this one. By the way, what I just did, just going to show you a little thing in Persuasion. In Persuasion, when the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the generals meet with the President of the United States, I read about this. It's actually in Hillary Clinton's book. She talks about the way they always present to the president with a business plan. Basically, you don't walk into the president's office without a plan. You don't just pop in and be like, hey, what's good? You like come in there. The guy who I just finished his book, he did the daily briefings for the president. They were at 8 in the morning every day. He would wake up at 12:30 at night each day. That's when he started his day. It took him 7.5 hours to prepare for the president to give a 10-minute briefing. So when I was giving a briefing to you guys of which of these 3 books, I did what the Joint Chief of Staff do. I presented you one in such a way nobody wanted it. I was like, this is for babies. Even though it's a great book. I presented this one as a medium option because then you wouldn't feel forced. But then I presented the one that I wanted everyone to read because I haven't finished this. These twice a month books also help me because then it forces me to even read it even deeper because I got to talk on it. So I wanted to read this book. I tricked everybody into, I did pretty good. It's a white lie. No, it's not a white lie. I didn't really trick you, but I presented this one much better. I was like, for those of you who want to really do big things, want the hardcore, the real, everybody's like, I'm hardcore. And everybody's like that. So I was a little test. I made this have 0%. And I guarantee you, I can't prove this. I guarantee you. Let me just show you guys persuasion. We'll put this in the persuasion. Let's remember to cut this up. I'll show you something. So let's say I want to be a magician and I want to sell this book. Okay? You still want to present in threes a lot of times. Gives people perceived value of choice, but it's not too many choices, they're confused. If you ever go to Cheesecake Factory and look at their menu, that's an example of confusion. Where people are just like, there's 600 things, I don't know what to do. I would hate to be a waiter there. People would just be like, I need another, can you give me 45 minutes and come back, then I'll know what I want. So if I wanted to push this one and not this one, this is more academic. I'd be like, all right, for those of you interested in learning from real world people that actually make $100 million rags to riches, here's a story. For those of you who like learning from stuffy professors who sit and have never made a penny in their life but just write about theories, we have that book. And this one, Bill Gates said. So I give a real short explanation. This book would have been voted. If I wanted to do it the other way around, and I go, all right, only one man in history has ever not only become the richest man, but stayed there for 16 straight years. That's hard. The 16 times, not ever, but straight. You know how many people want to be the richest man in the world? You're competing with the sharpest people. This dude stayed on top of 16 years. He said if you could only have one book, it'd be this one. If you haven't read it, might be a good idea. Okay, so that's vote number one. Number two, so this guy made $100 billion. Here's a story of a guy, he's not a bad entrepreneur. He made, 50 million bucks. He's no Bill Gates, but, and here's a dude that's never even made $1 million. He's got lots of words. Do you like talkers or do you like doers? The doers book, the kind of doers, and the boring professor that pisses you off because you don't know what he's writing. All right, votes. So then you can alternate the votes. So you guys, those are little persuasion things. You don't want to manipulate people. I was not super trying to manipulate you guys when I voted this, but I was slightly. Well, I was honest. I said, this is my vote, so I wasn't that manipulative. Would have been manipulative if I would have been like, I really want to read this, but then I want to convince you to read it. This is the one I wanted to read. So persuasion is alive and well in the world. So 2 weeks from now, read this one. It's a little bit harder book, okay? So you don't have to read it all, but this one, on the back cover, there's 2 Nobel Prize winners telling you to read this book. It's pretty good. If you ever get a Nobel Prize winner being like, that Mark Dama guy, he knows about health. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good referral, good testimonial. So I have found ways, if you look on Amazon, a little trick, you can generally buy hardcover books. Not always, maybe not for this one, for the same price as soft covers. They've got some pricing thing wrong. About 30% of the time, I'm buying hardcovers, which I think are better because they don't get as wrecked, and they look cooler, and they don't get food on them and bend the pages. So see on that, what you do is you click on buying options, and then you go to non-Amazon, the third-party sellers, and oftentimes you click on the little new tab. It takes like 4 more clicks. But I'm finding, like, I saw a softcover book the other day. It was $12, and the hardcover was $11. Same shipping. I was like, oh, okay. That's like just something giving you free gift, So I have seen it only works about 20, 30% of the time. But always check on Amazon buying options, and then go to the alternate sellers, okay? I guess the alternate sellers are trying to keep up with Amazon. The only downside, it takes a bit longer to get the book, because now Amazon in LA, they ship the same day. It's crazy. You just get it. You're like, wait a second, is someone, you're looking around, and like, is Jeff Bezos in the ceiling here? He's like, did you say that book, Tink? They're gonna be using drones soon. It'll be crazy. So, golden nugget, Singular vision for the upcoming 2 weeks, we're going to focus on behavioral economics, how the brain affects money making. Okay? So thanks so much, and talk to you guys soon.